The following program was produced by Community Producer. The content, views, and opinions expressed are the sole responsibility of the Community Producer and do not reflect Malden Access Television, the City of Malden, or your cable provider. MATV welcomes your comments. Call us at 781-321-6400 or email us at access@matv.org.
I hope you're all doing up well out there, and I'm coming to you, I guess, like I always say, what touches the heart comes from the heart. And I'm asking how you're doing, Malden and beyond. I have a very special guest with me today, and her name is Barbara Tolstrup. How you doing, Barbara? How you doing?
I'm doing as well as anybody else is, being at home and being concerned, as we all are, about this COVID-19 crisis and pandemic that we're having to deal with. But I'm doing well.
Well, let me ask you, Barbara, exactly what have you been doing for COVID-19, dear?
What have I been doing? Watching the news, which I'm a news junkie anyway, so I watch the news on the television, watching the updates, getting nervous. It's a very scary situation, don't you think?
In some respects, yes, it is, dear.
Yeah. And when you see people, you read about people, and of course, I heard the other day that the Globe obituary pages was just full of names and people that have succumbed to the coronavirus. So what have you been doing? How long have you been doing a podcast? You said you were here at the station. You were at the station. I'm not at the station.
No, you're not, my dear. You're in the comfort in your own home. We want to keep you safe because we love you so much.
Well, thank you. So, do you have a crew there with you?
No, it's me, myself, and I. And this lovely podcast station they put together. And actually, this time I decided to record it with a camera. So I want to put this out there on YouTube and on the wall. So you'll be out there.
People can see you, but they can't.
Oh, they'll be seeing you. I picked a lovely picture of you, Barbara.
Oh. Oh, that's nice. So how long have you been doing this?
I started this about, my sixth episode, and I've done it 6 times, and I thought it would be a wonderful idea if I know this coronavirus is out there, and I understand that, but I love to touch the people's hearts, and you're a very sweet lady, and I know you're at home. I want you to know that all of us here at Malden Access really care about you. And
we all I care about you all. And now, how many people do you have with you today to make this podcast happen?
Just myself.
Just yourself. And you are at the station.
Yeah, at this point in time, but the station's closed to the public.
Yes, I know that it is.
Yeah.
I miss it. Well, you have a guest. I'm your guest. I have a guest. My cat just jumped into my lap. So.
Yeah. So tell me, when did you first come to Malden Access, Barbara?
Oh, I started doing my show in 2002, believe it or not. But I was coming down before as a volunteer. And interestingly enough, it was Jay Phillips. She got involved. And she was doing, I forget what we call them, information over the on the screen, I guess it was, about what was going on at the station, programs and that sort of thing, for people who were could not see, blind people or people with sight difficulties, and then they stopped that. And at that point, Jeff Hansel, who happened to be the executive director at that time, asked me if I would be interested in doing a talk show. And so I began doing the show called Malden Square with Brendan Duffy, who was my co-host. And he was a former teacher at the high school. And we did it for a year, and we really had a great time, and it was we had a good kind of rapport. So it was an interesting show, and we heard from people that they enjoyed it. So that was great, and I enjoyed it very much. And then Brendan decided to, well, he was retired from teaching, of course, and had been working at City Hall in the mayor's office. But then he decided to retire, and he and his wife moved to, I believe it was Tewksbury, and he didn't want to make the commute. So the question was, well, who am I going to be? Who's going to co-host with me? And we never came up with anybody. And then suddenly somebody said, well, why don't you do it alone? And I said, well, I don't know if I can do that. Can I talk for an hour? And then they said, well, you don't have guests. So here I am, 18 years later, still when it's available and able to do it, doing my show.
That's great. You've done a lot of shows. How many do you know how many shows you've done, Barbara?
Well, if I started in 2002, and that's 18 years, believe it or not.
A lot of shows, Barbara, huh?
It's a lot of shows, even when I kind of tapered off this past summer. And also, at first I was naive to think that I could do a different show every single week. And then I realized at some point that maybe that wasn't work. But I did that for a long while. And then I kind of switched, so now it's a kind of every 2-week situation if I have a guest. But so it's a little bit more relaxed than it was when it was when we were doing it first. But I've done some interesting shows, had some interesting volunteers to work with. As of course myself, I'm a volunteer, as you know. Mm-hmm. So it's been an interesting kind of journey, I guess you might call it. I have had some interesting guests.
Do you remember some of your guests here?
Well, yes, I do. There was one that was particularly funny. It was a ventriloquist. Well, he's a constable, but he collects ventriloquist dummies. And I had a show with him. Now, he didn't want me to go on site to his studio, but he did bring 2 or 3 of his particularly outstanding dummies, if you could call them that. That's what they call them. And at that time, we used to sit at a sort of a counter, and so there was me at one end, he was at the other, and in between there were 2 of his most well-known or outstanding ventriloquist dummies. It was really a fun show.
I remember that show,
You do?
Because I saw the dummies, and I went in the opposite direction.
Why are you? Do they make you nervous? So there are people who are afraid of them.
I saw them. I said, "No, I don't think so."
But then I've had a show with one of my son's brothers, who was an advocate. He was actually really involved in protecting dogs, the dogs down at the racing dogs. And he came on and talked about the law that banned dog racing, which is what he was, working for. And so I had him and two of his nicest dogs, and then his wife, who also was volunteering for this effort. And it worked. They passed. The law was passed, and now dog racing is banned, at least here in Massachusetts. I assume, hopefully, nationwide. It's not a kind sport. And then there have been some others. I had one time. I had the lieutenant governor. In fact, I've had state representatives, the lieutenant governor at one point. I've had a couple of our state senators. The mayor, our current mayor, likes to come onto my show because, he's a great one for transparency and for letting his constituents know what's happening in the city. And so he likes to come on because he feels it's another tool or mechanism for getting the word out to people in the city. So he's a willing guest, and I'd like to have him because we always have great conversations. And that's the other thing. It's a talk show, but it isn't like a question and answer show as much as it is we have a conversation. So and people seem to be find that very relaxing. So, and you've been on my show, I believe.
I don't think I've been on your show yet, Barbara, but I will.
Well, we had something before this COVID thing started, which that's kind of not a good way to describe it. But anyway, we had talked about your coming on.
Yes.
And we made plans to do that. As a matter of fact, I was on your show, let me tell you something, when you first started it.
Yes.
Yep, yes. So how long have you been doing that? It's been a while now.
I started my show, let me tell you something, I think it was back in 2009. And as time went on, I put it to sleep for a little while, so to speak. And yes. When I learned about podcasts, I liked the idea of podcasts, and I took it back out again, and here I am doing it again. And I think you would enjoy doing podcasts, Barbara.
Well, I'm a talker. I think that's one of the requirements, I imagine. So tell me exactly, what is a podcast?
Podcast is like you're at home. Yep. I'm here at the station.
Yep.
And it can be done in a couple of ways. There's like being home and at the station. Also, you can do it right from your home as well. But there's different software to be used. But in this case, I am here at the station, and they have a podcast station. And here at the station, there's 4 mics and somewhat of a sound room here. And in other words, I can plug you in, and you can be at home, and I can speak from the station, and you're right in your home, at your own home. And
that's great.
Yeah, and I can edit it, and it can go live. And it can go on YouTube. It can go on Twitter, wherever I decide to put it, or they allow me to put it. And in this case, it's also going on Channel 3, because that's where I'm putting it to as well. The programmer does that for me.
Yeah, the public network.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
We're a PEG station, Public Education and Government.
Yes.
So we're on the public station category. Well, that's interesting. So, and you find it fun to do and interesting?
I find it relaxing. I find it is very helpful. It gives me the opportunity to have different types of guests on, like yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good part of it.
Yeah, I'm able to have other guests, and they're all informative, like yourself. And I enjoy it immensely. And anybody out there within the sound of my voice, whether you're 15, 16, or young at heart like Barbara and myself, you could do this too.
So how do you get a podcast? If I wanted to say, Josephine's podcast is on, how do I turn it on?
How do you want? In other words, you want to hear this? I will send you.
Your audience? Who's your audience?
Anybody
and how are they your audience? They're not all on the telephone, so are they?
It can be on a computer, a cell phone, iPhone. They can pick it up anywhere. Anybody that listens to podcasts can listen to this particular podcast.
I see. So you don't have to do it through the computer.
It can be done through a computer, but it also can be done via cell phone too as well.
Oh, so if somebody wanted to hear this, they could pick up their phone and somehow dial in and listen to this podcast? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. In my case, they can go to matv.org and click on podcast. It will take you right to the podcast, and we'll also go to VOD, and mine happens to be on Channel 3 as well.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, that's so interesting. And it gives you something to do. And I don't mean that. I don't mean that to be critical or whatever, but disparaging. But still, with this, where we're so confined, but you have left your home to go to the stations, have you not?
I've been working right along, Barbara.
You have been. Oh, what is the status of the station? Tell me that.
There's nobody actually here physically. There's only a couple of us, myself and Talonzo. I have things to do here, and one of them is this podcast. There's other things that I do here as well, but the station is closed.
Oh, well, I know you are the receptionist, and you do a lot of mailings, I'm sure, and business for the station. So, yes, I know that you. How long has that been? How many years have you been at the station?
Almost 13 years.
Wow.
I'm the office manager here, and but this podcast is about you, Barbara. This podcast about you. This podcast is about you, my dear.
It's about me.
Yeah.
Well, I am as you know, sort of a automatic interviewer. So
I know you are.
I talk to people. I find myself doing that even if it's just a conversation. Well, I'll be saying, "What do you do?" Oh, how long have you been doing that? Are you married? Do you live in Malden? All of these questions, and I will think to myself, "Oh my, I'm interviewing them."
Yeah,
but that's kind of how it is.
Well,
so I guess I was a natural for the show, which, by the way, is called, as you know, Malden Square.
Yeah. Yeah, Malden Square is a very interesting show. I've watched it quite often. Both Virginia and I.
That's nice to know.
Yes. I'm sure people are still watching it.
Well, actually, I do have people say to me, I see you on television.
Mm-hmm.
And that started really almost immediately. I remember being in, filings one day, when there was a filings, and this woman, the saleswoman, said, "Oh, I see you on television." I said, "Oh, you must live in Malden," because in those days it was Comcast, and only Comcast broadcast in Malden, at least. And then I went to Verizon. My husband wanted to, and so now we can get other stations as well as just MATV. Now, we've got a new name, haven't we?
Yes, MATV will soon be called UMA.
Yeah, I remember that Ron Cox, the director, announced that at our last annual meeting. So how is that going?
It's coming along. Eventually you'll see it publicized.
Well, that's good. Of course, right now we're so, as I said a few minutes ago, so confined. So, do you normally have guests on your podcast? Well, of course you have to. You couldn't do a podcast without a guest, could you? You'd be on the telephone talking to
I always
yourself.
have a guest. I always have a guest. But I have to be telling you, I'm thinking of doing one with just music.
With just music?
Correct. I love music, Barbara.
Do you play anything or an instrument or sing?
I love to sing, and I do play a little bit of piano, and I do play the drums.
No kidding.
No.
That's a wonderful instrument. And people don't appreciate it. You know, there's a real talent. Well, I don't know how old you are, but I know when I was a kid, we used to have a place called the Totem Pole. We'd go out. That was a big date, go to the Totem Pole. It was a dance place, and it was out in Waltham, I think, maybe Woburn. I'm not sure. And they would have, guest performers. At one time, Gene Krupa was a guest. Now, I don't know if do you know that name? He was a drummer.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was fun. So, drumming is an interesting. We had a music director at the high school one year, and my kids, a couple of them were in the band, and they did a drum number.
Mm-hmm.
A total drum for one of their annual concerts, which they played other songs, but this was a special drum number, and it was really, really lovely, wonderful. So, other than that, I'm home trying to not watch too much television and get depressed by the news about the COVID-19 thing, which is very depressing, and trying to pick up on other things. But I do miss, seeing the people. I miss seeing everybody, and including my family members. But then I also miss, like people at the station. I've done some different interesting shows. Jim Mudge I think I'm the only person that calls him Jim. Everybody else calls him James. And we did a show on my cancer experience. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. We won an award for that one. Was it one session or three? No, it was one. But I talked to the doctor. I talked to my, nursing PA, and then I talked to James was my director. And we went into the chemo unit, and they watched me. Well, you probably saw the show. They, watched them put the needle in and start the chemo. And I've had a lot of people tell me that they thought that was a really helpful show. So that was what I did it for. I didn't do it to win an award, but I was pleased that we did. But mostly, I just wanted people to know this is something you could do, and it's not all that scary. So I was pleased with it, and people have. In fact, I walked into the drugstore one Sunday morning, and this woman said, "Oh, you were so brave to do that." And I said, "Brave?" And she said, "Well, And I said, "Well, I didn't really think of myself as being brave. I just thought of myself as giving information, and so I don't know, but that was nice to hear."
Well, that was very encouraging.
That's a good word for it. I like that.
Very encouraging for you to do that, and I'm grateful James was there with you.
Yeah, he's a great director, very creative person, and so what's his title now at the station?
He's the program director, I believe.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because when he first came in as a volunteer, you probably remember that, do you?
Oh, I remember very well.
Yes, and he really didn't know anything about cable access, but he learned so quickly. And I kept saying, he was my director at that time, and he was a volunteer. And I kept saying we should give him a job, and I guess it was Ron. He kept saying we can't afford it. And then finally he did get a job, and of course he took the job with the understanding that he would continue to direct my show, and there was another show that he directed, and so that was great for a year. Then he got so busy, and of course Ron kept giving him more things to do because he was so capable that he no longer could be my director. So I thought to myself, me and my big mouth, if he was still a volunteer, he'd still be directing. But anyway, he does a great job. But I think we have a great staff down there.
Yeah, they're very, very, very pleasant people to work with.
Yeah, well, and they're also, they know their stuff, so they're all very capable.
Yes, they are. They are.
Yeah, so Guillermo is what? He's volunteer director, is he?
I don't have his card right at hand, but I know he's the government person at this point.
Oh, they didn't hire someone to specifically replace Brian when Brian left?
Well, I'm not going to go into detail, but that's all I know at this point. And I'm just grateful to work with a great group of people.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. And some of the former employees too.
Yeah, wonderful people to work with. I've worked with great people, nice, caring people, all of them.
Well, you're a great addition to the staff, if I may say so.
Oh, thank you very much, Barbara.
There's so much you do. You edit, do you not?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and then you also have your own show.
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
And you're at the desk, you're the office manager.
Yes.
So you read people when they come in, you deal with problems, you deal with questions. So your job is rather consuming but interesting. Must be interesting.
You might call me chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah. Well, they're okay. Everybody needs a good trio like that, good chief and bottle washer. So.
I'll king aside. I'm just grateful to be part of the team.
Really? Now, are you a retirement age? Of course.
Unfortunately, 70 is coming real close.
You're a kid. You're just a kid. Do you know that I will turn 90?
Oh, my gosh. You're so young at heart, Barbara.
Well, that's the whole secret.
Yes.
You get old. You can't be old. No, I don't mean you have to be a fool and walk around like if you're 90 or 75 or 80 wearing mini skirts and dressing like a teenager, but you have to live in the world and not in the past.
Correct. That's correct.
Yes. And it's fun.
Yes, it is.
Much more.
It
yeah,
is.
so much more interesting doing that than being, Now, there's no question. You get together with some of your friends who are your age, and you start talking about the good old days. Remember when this, and remember, talking about dating in those days and so forth and so on. But then you have to know what's happening today. You can't be just, clucking your tongue and saying, "Oh my, look at these young people, what they're doing now." That's not living. That's kind of, just kind of sit there. It's just kind of letting the world go by. So at least that's how I feel about it. My philosophy is stay in the world, live life as it is today, with reasonable requirements. You don't want to be, as I said, trying to be like a teenager when you're 65 or 70, but you know what I mean. So you're going to be 70. So you're just a kid.
Well, it's coming up real close, Barbara, but I look at it this way. To the youngsters out there, my hat's off to you, and keep on learning and keep on pressing in. You have a wonderful opportunity to learn wonderful things nowadays. I have to say Haley Howe of Malden Access is doing a wonderful job. I have to say Guillermo Hamlin is doing a great job.
I really like him a lot.
Oh, yes. Talonzo Amos is doing a great job, and so is James. And
who?
James Mudge.
Oh, and James, I know, but who's the other person?
Talonzo Amos.
Yeah, no, Talonzo, but don't you have a couple of other people there? Marcio?
Okay, yeah, Marcio too, as well as working so hard with the interns here at Malden Access. My hat's off to Ann Drissel Rose, Ron Cox, and to Olsa, who they're all doing great jobs here at Malden Access.
What does Olsa do?
She's a coordinator, and she does a fabulous job. Everybody here at Malden Access mostly is working from home, but they're working tirelessly. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to you, my dear friend Barbara. Lots of love coming.
I really enjoyed it, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I do that.
That's okay, dear. That's okay. I do love you a great deal, Barbara. And we're here for you if you need us. And maybe again, we could do this again.
I'm not going anywhere, and I have plans to stick around. Actually, my family, which, of course, everything's up in the air now with the COVID, and I think our, return to normalcy, and I think that's going to be quite different from what we experienced before this pandemic hit us. It's been a difficult time, but I think we've come together. Well, this country is great in that respect, and I know I sound, she's a flag waver, but I am, and I love my city. But I think, when we have problems, this country, we pull together. And, I've lived through, you haven't, but I've lived through World War II. I remember the closeness, the love, actually, the pride. So, do I sound like I'm on a soapbox?
No, you're not, Barbara. But I'm going to say like this, Barbara. I'm going to sign off for now, and we'll do this again. Lots of love.
I really would like to.
We will. Lots of love coming your way, dear. And thank you for coming on this show, on the podcast. And I want to get... what, dear?
I said I'm having such a good time.
Oh, wonderful. I want to give a shout-out again for all the first responders, to the chief of police and all the police officers in Malden, Massachusetts, and all around the country. I want to give a shout out to the nurses and doctors.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to give a shout out to CNAs, volunteers, all those in healthcare, all those at the stores that are putting their life out on the line for us.
Yep.
All the home care workers, all of them. And all those that...
You know who I want to give a shout-out to?
Who, dear?
Our mayor.
I'm just about to do that. I want to give a shout...
Yeah.
I want to give a shout-out to Mayor Gary Christensen at this time. Mayor Gary Christensen, thank you for coming into Malden Access and having a show update and all those that make it happen. I give a thanks and a shout-out.
Yeah.
So I thank you today, and we will do this again. And I want to give a shout out for my daughter and my daughter-in-law.
Oh, how nice!
My two daughters, three of them are nurses.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
And
and they're working, of course.
Yes.
they're working.
And I give it thanks for them because they were all tested, and I'm grateful at this point they are safe. And I will be praying for you. And,
thank you.
And I'll be praying for you, Barbara, and all those out there. We will do this.
Thank you. And I pray for you and my friends and my fellow Americans. So I'll tell you, I believe in prayer.
Okay. Bye-bye for now, Barbara. Take care.
Okay. Well, bye-bye. And it was nice talking to you, Josephine.
Bye-bye, sweetheart. Now I'm going to be playing some soft music, but again, continue to wash your hands, if not with soap and water, definitely with hand sanitizer. Wear your mask when you're outside, and please take care of yourselves. Bye-bye for now, and take care.